You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to my weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here in Keep Canada Weird, my pal handsome Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore some of the more offbeat Canadian news stories from the past week. In tonight's episode, which was recorded during the evening of June 14th, 2022, we consider a $5 Dollarama, we tremble at a syringe attack, we uninstall the very costly COVID alert app, and we rage against a racist yearbook. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport, how are you doing over there with your newfound beard growth situation?
Oh, it's weighing me down. My neck is getting sore.
It looks it. We talked just last week and it was normal. You got a lot of growth in 7 days, mister.
Yeah, it's called depression.
Well, I can see your people who are listening don't see the look in your face. You are dead serious. What's going on with you?
I was just delivering a deadpan joke. I apologize.
Okay.
I shouldn't.
Okay. No, that hit. I was.
It hit, yeah.
For real though, what's new with you?
Not much. The beard is just complete being busy and lazy, and the bigger it gets, the less I want to shave it because it's just this daunting chore that's ahead of me. So it's turning into this thing where it's like, the longer it gets, the less I want to do it, and I'm just stuck with this big beard now.
Wow, you've found yourself in a situation for sure. I wish you the best in that.
It's complicated.
Anything new going on that you want to talk about? Anything bothering you or anything in the world captured your attention?
The world. Oh, goodness. There's so much going on in the world. The price of Bitcoin is interesting.
What, it dropped, didn't it? I thought I saw.
Yeah, it's been dropping like crazy lately.
Well, good, because I find it so weird. All this like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, NFTs, whatever those are, like all these kind of new financial things are just confusing to me. And they make me feel old because I don't get them, so I kind of want it all to fail.
No, I'm like that with anybody who has success in anything.
I don't want it to affect people I know or love. Okay.
Oh, you love me?
I do, yeah. Yeah, but Bitcoin itself again makes me feel old, just like how I want a lot of the new video games to cease production. And
you don't care for them.
Any new food trends as well, I'm not interested in.
So you can't stand food trucks, probably.
No, certainly not. Uber Eats, like delivery type services.
You hate those.
Actually, I shouldn't say that because I think I have ads for them. I support I support some of them. I'm just not exactly sure which ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Well, let's move on. I had a dentist appointment tonight. I had a very busy day, so I'm a little frazzled, and that's why I think I need to shut one part of life in the world down and focus on what matters. And on Tuesday evenings, for me and for you, what matters is keeping Canada weird.
Yes.
We have a full card here. I'm going to title this episode $5 Dollarama, a syringe attack, the Money Pit COVID app, and a racist yearbook. So we got kind of not falling on a theme this week. These are stories from different sides of the spectrum, in different genres altogether. Where are we going to start with this thing?
Oh, wow. Let's start with the racist yearbook.
Yearbooks, I don't know if they serve the same kind of social purpose they did when we graduated from high school, but I remember the yearbook being such a big deal, almost like the last year of high school. Like half the year was like people working out what their write-up is going to be. Like under your photo, you'd have the little blurb about you, and everyone was getting photos in their different groups. At the end of the year, you would get your yearbook, and we would take the yearbooks around and have everybody sign them. It was a very big thing at my high school. Did you have was there a big yearbook scene in Glace Bay?
I didn't pay attention to it.
Really?
No, I never cared much for yearbooks. I never bought one or kind of saved any of the ones that I did have. Yeah, I just never had much interest in that.
That surprises me because you're a social guy. I thought that would be something that would mean a lot to
Yeah.
you. I remember my time in high school. I did in my senior year, like my graduating year of high school. I think I wrote write-ups, like people who couldn't come up with their own write-ups. I think I wrote write-ups for maybe like 10 friends. Like Randy, I think I wrote his and a few others. But like a thing with the yearbook write-ups is you would always try to sneak in like in jokes or maybe like
Yeah.
references to like weed or liquor or partying. A lot of my
Yeah.
friends played in bands, so you'd have like a unique way to like reference their band or something. Or another thing that was big is initials. So you would be like, if I was writing your thing, I'd be like, hey, Aaron, remember all the great times we had with, DC for Donnie Calabrese or something like that if you wanted to like reference friends. So these kind of like in jokes were a thing in yearbooks. But some people in a Montreal area school really blew it this year by taking these like cryptic messages and in jokes, if you want to call that, in a completely evil and inappropriate and disturbing way. Let me tell you the story about the unacceptable yearbooks at a Montreal area school that had to be recalled due to a racist entry.
The Lester B. Pearson School Board is taking action after a student wrote a racist comment in the McDonald High School yearbook. It's removing the comment before returning the more than 900 yearbooks handed out. And Iman, what do we know about what was written?
Well, Amanda, the racial slur was hidden. The text was 6 words separated by commas. And so the first letter of each word together spelled out a racial slur. I'm told this is why the administration didn't pick up on it before it went to print. On Friday, it was brought to their attention, and it was then that the principal at McDonald High School confiscated more than 900 yearbooks. But the head of a nonprofit that educates youth on racism says for the racialized students, the damage was already done.
It's traumatizing for young BIPOC students to have racism thrown in their face day in, day out. In the media, they're hearing about these crazy stories all the time. Now they learn that someone that they go to school with, a school which is supposed to be a safe place, has these racist thoughts. So it's really disturbing. And my heart does go out for the students at that school, especially the young Black students.
She says she's also surprised this happened because the school has done a lot to address this exact thing. In 2020, the Lester B. Pearson School Board set up a task force on racism and discrimination and worked with several cultural and community organizations. Its students have undergone workshops on diversity and inclusion, and the school board says it has been very proactive against racism. In a written statement, the school board said 2 students were responsible for the yearbook write-up, and they're both facing disciplinary action. It also said the Lester B. Pearson School Board deplores the actions of the students involved and denounces racism and discrimination in all forms. We cannot let racist attitudes of any kind go unchecked. The director for the Center for Research Action on Race Relations says he commends the school for recalling all the yearbooks and says it is important to take action.
In terms of ensuring how to prevent this situation from happening, and more importantly, to have a form of collective process for resolution and reconciliation, because these are the things that can have very, very long-lasting damages and consequences if left unchallenged.
The school board says all students will get their yearbooks back within a week once the racist entry has been removed. Amanda.
All right. Thank you very much, Iman.
So they don't say what was written in the yearbook, but based on the reporting,
letters, yeah.
Based on the reporting, 7 words.
I thought it was 6 words.
One sec, maybe you're right. I thought I saw it was. What's that? Yes, 6 words.
Six letters or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 6 words. Their yearbook
6
entry
letters, yeah.
would have been 6 words separated by commas, with the first letter of each word being used in the code to be a racist slur. I think we both know what it is. How can even a high school student think in any way that this is a joke or funny or that people wouldn't figure it out?
Well, maybe they thought nobody would figure it out. I could see them kind of being dumb enough to think that nobody would eventually see it, but and apparently nobody did until word got back to them that this was in there.
But how did word get back to them? Because here's a few scenarios. So they put this disgusting hidden word through their code in this write-up. Okay, how do other people find out? Do these guys who did this go around the school kind of bragging and laughing that they were able to pull it off?
I think that's sort of probably what happened. Like, I don't know if they went around the whole school bragging, but they probably told a few of their friends, like, "Oh, look what we did." And then they told a few friends, and then it eventually got back to the administration, and then they pulled the yearbooks.
So who do you think fronts the cost of that? If 900 yearbooks, these generally are hardcover books that cost like with inflation, they're probably like $50 a pop.
I don't know.
I wonder if the school will pay for it, or if the book publisher will eat that expense. That's it.
I imagine the school will pay for it. That's how I see it playing out.
These kids should be, whoever's responsible should be paying. It should be their summer job should be paying for it.
Yeah, I can't see how they'd pull that off, but I mean,
oh man,
if they can, great. You know, that's who should ultimately pay for it. But I just don't know how they'd be able to enforce that, I guess.
Either way, it's a horrific, hideous situation.
Well, it's just also the legwork in getting all of the yearbooks back. I imagine they had already. Did they already distribute the books, or?
Oh yeah, it seems like the books were distributed and now are being like returned, like scrapped, and new ones being.
And did they get all of them back? That's what I'm wondering. Like, did everybody who had one in their possession bring it back after they were recalled?
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, but it just, what a mess, and it shows how I guess you'd call it a prank. They probably saw it as a prank, although I don't see it that way. But it's a selfish, foolish prank that is just very upsetting, costing a lot of people money, and I think these kids learned a pretty tough lesson. I hope.
Yeah, hopefully. What in terms of punishment went towards these individuals or this one person, whoever did it?
Well, what can they do? Well,
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what's in their power to do? Like, what can they do?
Yeah, I'm kind of assuming that they're like seniors and like they're done school anyway, and they walk away from it free. But if not, it should be a pretty significant suspension. But not that that's really a punishment. I remember getting suspended for school, and I was like, sweet.
Yeah, I loved suspension. I remember I got suspended for smoking in front of the school. I was doing it right in front of the principal's office's window. And then he just came out. He's like, "You're suspended for 3 days." I'm like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, sweet. I'll smoke at my place.
I have an excuse to be home for 3 days. Like, I'm not expected in class. Like, where's the punishment there?
Yeah, so let's say you're administrator of the school, be it principal or senior in the school board. What do you do to these kids
if they're graduating? Like,
yeah.
Well, maybe, I don't know what would be in my power.
Can you revoke like
they're graduating?
Well, then you're stuck with them for another year.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. I just don't know enough about the power that a principal would have on a student who's graduating and is already out the door. Like, I don't know what they'd be able to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a complicated situation, but it's like when something like this happens, like we talked in the early days of the series, the whole situation with hockey PEI, there was discussion of turning it into like a learning opportunity and making the best out of a nasty situation. I don't know how you do it in this case.
No, I don't know either.
Yeah, this is that's crappy. But anyway, it's a shame that things like that pop up and that people still, given the amount of public discourse that surrounds all of these topics, that there are still people in a high school that think it's appropriate to or
Yeah.
acceptable in any way to do something
Yeah,
like
I don't
that.
know. Like if you were gonna play a, I don't know if you'd even call it a prank. It's pretty disgusting, but
Well, the jokes usually when I was in school, the jokes we would try to sneak in would be more like something like
like
either
penis
or
or
something
booby or
like
something.
sex related
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
we
It's
would.
usually like, yeah, like I don't know, boner.
Yeah, the first letter of each word would spell boner. Yeah, that would be something where I could see
Yeah.
my friends and I getting behind that.
Yeah, I could probably convince you to do that today.
Yeah, I would.
I know you would.
If you read the description of my show in Apple Podcasts, the first letter of every word is boner.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. So what we have now is I have one other dark story we'll save for later just to separate this. Do you want to talk about inflation?
No.
Do you want to talk about government malfeasance and wasting of money?
No.
We got to pick one or the other.
Oh, you do?
Inflation or government irresponsibility. Which do you think is
Okay, well let's go to inflation then.
okay?
Inflation's a hot topic right now.
It is a hot topic, but a very interesting lens to look at inflation through is pricing of Dollarama. First of all, let's get a pronunciation check. I've always called it Dollarama, like Dollarama. How do you say it?
Dollarama. It's Dollarama.
Okay, we're the same. All right.
I've never thought about it. It's just always
A lot of people call it Dollarama. Dollarama.
Dollarama. No, I've never heard that.
I've heard it's Dollarama. We're talking about the well-known Canadian dollar store, Dollarama. And we've talked about them on this show before. We both frequented often. When Dollarama opened, everything was $1, unless marked otherwise. Some things would be $1.50, whatever. Then they started introducing $2 things and $2.50 and $3. They've just announced their not a price increase, but a new tier of pricing. Dollarama is going to be selling products that are valued at $5 and under going forward. I've said this before on the show, but their name kind of pigeonholes them into like selling things that are $1, and inflation kind of makes it so that if they stuck with that, in no time they'd only be selling like little tiny pieces of candy and stuff, because nothing really costs $1 anymore.
They're kind of moving away from that, and they're heading more towards the Walmart.
Like the poor man's Walmart is what I've called it often.
Yeah.
And they sell everything. Like there's so much stuff there, and and a lot of it now it's like, and this wasn't so much the case early on. A lot of it is brand name stuff.
Yeah, that's why they're kind of creeping towards that one-stop shop Walmart arena, where Walmart's pricing is considerably lower than a lot of the other retailers as well. And Dollarama's is even lower than that. But Dollarama doesn't offer the amount of product that Walmart does.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, so thinking of like history kind of in Canada, we would have like Sears, and that was like a bit higher end. If you went in and bought, stuff for your kitchen, it would cost you a bunch of money for, what are those things called you flip pancakes with?
Oh, spatula.
Yeah, so you get a spatula at Sears, and let's just say it cost you $18. You would go to Walmart and you would get a comparable spatula. Maybe it'd be $9. You go to Dollarama and you get a comparable spatula for $2. And that's kind of how I've always seen it. Dollarama's coming in with the lowest price stuff, but for the majority of it is cheap plastic crap that's not going to last you. In fact, before we started recording tonight, one of the lights I keep on my desk to light up my keyboard, it wouldn't turn on, and I couldn't figure out why. I realized it just died, and then I thought to myself, I bought this at Dollarama. Of course, the little light thing died. But do you think, like, going to a $5 price point, do you think this is going to affect them? Are people going to protest outside of Dollaramas across the country?
No, I don't think so. I think people are going to keep shopping there as long as the prices are lower than most places. But this is an opportunity for other, quote unquote dollar stores to step up and attract more customers that would normally shop at Dollarama and would now move over. Like, maybe places like that could be like, Dollarama is ripping you off. We're still selling things for $2 here.
That'd be an amazing slogan.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around it. I think things just cost that much. If you look at, the price of gas, it's double what it was a year ago, at least. They use gas to ship all this stuff, of course, to Dollarama. So just like that is just one example of how inflation is driving the cost to bring these goods to those stores. I think it's impossible to maintain a wide selection of stuff and have the kind of service you'd expect and quality that you would expect, I guess, from the Dollarama for, $2 for an item. I think $5 is just like everything else costs so much money, and inflation is soaring right now. I think this is just kind of a symptom of that, but it seems like Dollarama is kind of trying to pitch it as like, and this allows us to bring in, higher end goods and better stuff. But no, I think it's just a straight up inflation thing. I don't think you're going to notice any difference in the store.
I don't think it's just an inflation thing with Dollarama though. I think it's, this is a big company, you have shareholders and, where they're looking at how many more customers they've been gaining, in the past year or two, especially since COVID, where more and more consumers are price conscious and they're shopping more at Dollarama. And they're like, if we raise the prices just a little bit, we'll offset this inflation, but we'll also make more money at the same time. Because now we're kind of locking in a bigger clientele than we had several years ago.
It's interesting to see how this goes and where it goes, but I think it's kind of like at Tim Hortons. What happens is every so often you go there and there's a little sign on the counter and it says, due to things beyond our control, the price of this and that, our coffee is seeing a 7-cent increase, let's say, per coffee or something like that. And people get up in arms. There'll be an article online that people are unhappy that the price of coffee is going up despite Tim Hortons making a ton of money. And then the price goes up and a week later, everybody forgets until, a year later they do it again. I think this is just, it's just Dollarama is in the news right now because since their prices are so low overall anyway, that having that new number of $5, it makes it seem like a bigger jump, but it's still super low quality, low price stuff like this. Whatever Dollarama is selling for $5, you'd probably buy almost the same thing for $9 at Walmart, like I said. So it's, I guess it's going to be hard to complain. But actually, this may be a good transition to. So we just talked about inflation. Let's talk about government blowing money despite rising fuel costs, rising housing costs, skyrocketing inflation or soaring inflation. The Canadian government seems pretty unfazed by it. Do you know about the COVID alert app, Aaron?
Yes, I do. I have it.
Do you really? So you're one of the few people.
Yeah, I got it right away as soon as it came out.
Very responsible of you. For people who don't know, and I didn't know anything about this until I started realizing, until I learned how much money the Canadian government spent designing an app that people could download on their phones to indicate if they had COVID, and then the app would tell their contacts who also had the app that, someone in their network has COVID. The government spent a tremendous amount of money building and designing that that app, but they spent like just as much money marketing it. Overall, the thing was a complete flop, waste of money. Very few people actually used it, with the exception of you.
Well, I never used it in the sense that I didn't get COVID, so
okay,
I didn't put my tracking number into it.
Very few people even downloaded it, let alone used it to report having COVID. Finally, the government appears to be taking their losses and shutting down the COVID alert app. Let me read you some of the background on this. Canadian government shutting down COVID alert app, insider sources say. The federal government will be shutting down the COVID alert app and may do so as early as this week, government sources have told CBC News. The sources spoke to CBC News on the condition that they not be named because they're not authorized to discuss the matter publicly. The Globe and Mail first reported this news. The phone app, which was launched in the summer of 2020, is designed to alert users to possible COVID-19 exposures. Users who have tested positive for the virus use a one-time key on the app to report their diagnosis. Their phones then exchange codes with other phones that have the app installed and notify those who have been within 2 meters of an infected person for 15 minutes or longer. The federal government encouraged the use of the app throughout the pandemic. The app doesn't collect personal information such as locations, addresses, and phone contacts. COVID Alert has been downloaded just 6.8 million times, which is kind of a lot, but it's been used only 57,000 times with these one-time keys to report an infection, according to the government. Canada, despite only 57,000 cases being entered into the app, Canada has had just under 4 million COVID infections. So a very small percentage made it to the app. Experts have questioned the app's effectiveness in limiting the spread of COVID-19, saying it would have required far more downloads and far more information from users in order to work. The emergence of the more infectious Omicron variant may also have hurt the app's ability to track infections. Users in British Columbia, Alberta, Nunavut, and Yukon are unable to get one-time codes to report COVID infections, and there has also been confusion about whether or not the app is even functioning. Now here's the kicker. The app itself cost $20 million. Most of that money, 15.9, was spent on the promotion and the advertising, while 3.5 million went to developing and maintaining the app. So all in, $20 million was spent to have it downloaded by under 9 million people. So they could have paid people $2 each to download this app and they would have come out on ahead.
Yeah, that would have been, get a $2 credit on your phone bill or something.
Yeah, $20 million was spent to design, advertise, and maintain the app with only 57,000 cases entered. They could have been paying these people like hundreds of dollars to enter your COVID diagnosis into this app. That's for government, $20 million isn't a ton of money, but man, that money could be better used. I guess hindsight's 2020 though.
That's the thing. Like the idea, theoretically is great. Like you get diagnosed with COVID, you enter in your code, and then it alerts people, who were around you that they were in close contact with someone who's been recently diagnosed. And then, especially for all of the kind of cases that were, didn't show symptoms and maybe didn't even know that they had COVID, But I guess I was naive. Like when it first came out, I downloaded it right away because, I was like, well, that's a great idea. And then I was just under the assumption because the government was talking so much about it. And I guess naively, I thought when you test positive for COVID, part of the procedure of like, okay, what we're going to get you to do now is download this app and enter in your code and, kind of walk them through that every time somebody tests positive. Like as part of the
like make the app a part of the official kind of procedure or whatever.
Yeah, the official government procedure of every person who tests positive for COVID. And I kind of thought that was what was going to happen. And now that I think about it, that would take a lot of legwork, I guess, to kind of institute nationwide. So they went with the approach of just kind of having a marketing campaign and having the general public handle it themselves, which is probably not going to really work.
Well, I hadn't heard about the app, so I
You
don't know
hadn't
where
heard about it? I heard about it quite a bit.
No, I've ignored it since like this COVID. Every COVID related thing I've ignored since about a month into COVID. So
Oh,
maybe
really? Okay.
maybe the app started after I tuned out and blocked the word COVID from all of my news feeds.
Yeah, see, I would watch the COVID updates, every day, and during the peak times, when there was lockdowns and when the numbers were spiking.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that anymore. We're just kind of living with it now. But
Yeah, but I think for an app like that, there could be a way it could work, but I think no matter what, people would be so against the privacy implications of it, because I think for that app to work, it would need a lot more information. Like, for example, if it was a part of the official process, and like maybe your health card number or something was like, was your account number in this app, and you test positive, and automatically, like when they enter it in at the health system, it lets your app know, and using your location services let other phones that are near you know that they were near someone. But that is just like, as far as the privacy implications of that, you'd need to give the government so much access to your location services and all this stuff on your phone, and people aren't going to do that. People didn't want to wear a mask.
I know, but like, we all have phones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these apps, that track this and that, it's redundant at this point. You have a phone, you're trackable. Your information is being shared. It doesn't matter if you submit to an app or download this or that or whatever. It's what you have a phone now. You are completely trackable and are being tracked. Like, there's no. Either you get rid of your phone and are untrackable, or you have a phone and are always tracked. I've submitted to it because I have a phone, and it doesn't matter what I do on it. It doesn't matter what I download, what I don't download. Mm-hmm. You're being listened to all the time on your phone, and you're being tracked all the time on your phone, not specifically by one individual, but like just the system is tracking where you're going. It's keeping a record of where you're going, what you're doing, what you're saying. It just is what it is. Downloading one new app is not going to make one drop of water is not going to make the ocean any wetter.
I'm glad the government, like, shutting it down at this point only makes sense. But the damage is already done. They've spent their money.
And like early in the pandemic, it's a great idea. It's just, how far are you willing to go to institute it properly? And the question was, they weren't willing to go far enough. I just kind of downloaded it and assumed that, when someone got diagnosed with COVID, they would be told to download the app and enter in their number as part of the procedure, so that most people are doing it. You're still going to get some people that won't, but most people were doing it. But most people didn't even know the app existed, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. We have this is a true nightmare story to discuss. It seems like it's going to be one of those kind of like urban legends. This is a true story. This will be a Canadian crime section. Let me roll the intro to that.
This week in Crime in Canada.
This is a story that takes place in Saskatoon. And this story is enough to make it that I can pretty confidently say I will never go to Saskatoon unless the person responsible for this is arrested very soon.
No, you're not a risky man at all. You're just
when
those odds of one in however many hundreds of thousands of people live there.
When it comes to getting stabbed randomly with a syringe, I don't want to take my chances.
Mm-hmm.
It was a regular Tuesday morning for Gary Barr, who was sitting at his usual spot at Yan's place. That was until a stranger walked up to Barr and stabbed him with a syringe.
It felt hot, or like a little taser or something like that. So I didn't know what happened to me.
By the time Barr realized he was just stabbed, he noticed his attacker over his shoulder.
Went around behind me and scooted out the door. He yelled back at me, "Get yourself tested."
Once police arrived, Barr was advised to go to hospital, where staff decided against giving him a drug cocktail that would have made him extremely sick and damaged his kidneys. So now he's playing a nervous waiting game, undergoing blood tests every few months, hoping for the best.
Sometimes you expect, somebody wants to steal your cell phone or your wallet, but just out of the blue, stab you with a Sharpie. That's just unheard of, eh?
Barr says he's not afraid to go out, but he won't be going out alone anytime soon.
And, have friends around me, because I don't think they would attack you, if you're in a group. But when you're by yourself, you're kind of a target.
Did you watch the video?
No, I saw like the
still image
picture. Yeah, okay. The still image of it.
The video is just shows this random man. It could be either of our fathers, just like sitting at a bar.
It could never be my father.
It could.
My father would never do that.
Okay, well, it could have been. Let's say if our parents would stop and get a drink at a pub alone. It could be them. He's just.
Wait, are you talking about the person who got stabbed? Could be one of our fathers.
Yeah.
Or the stabber. I thought you were saying the stabber could be.
No. My dad would never.
That's what I was saying. I was like, my dad doesn't even own syringes.
So, either of our dads could be sitting alone at a pub having lunch, on a break from work or something.
Mm-hmm.
Not paying attention to anybody, just looking at a newspaper or their phone or whatever the case may be. This guy walks in, and just as he walks past him, you just see him hit him in like the side with his fists, and you kind of see the guy who gets hit like kind of react and look around, but you can tell he's kind of like, what just happened? And then the other guy that did the stabbing just walks off. And the video has no sound. You have to read the article to realize that as the guy walks out, he yells back, "Go get tested." And that is friggin' scary, eh?
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, if somebody was truly looking to stab someone with a syringe that has infected blood in it or whatever, like, if their intention was to infect an individual, why would they then yell out, "Go get tested"?
Yeah, that's a good. Well, if it's to infect them, once you've stabbed them with it anyway, they've already they're infected if they were going to be infected. So giving them a warning isn't going to prevent them from catching whatever you would be giving them or not. I think it's just. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just so they realize what you did. I don't know. I don't know why you would yell
hopefully the syringe doesn't have anything in it
or on it.
Or I don't know if there was blood in it. I don't know if it was just a used needle that would have dry blood on it.
Oh, it's the thought is horrific. Like, where does the guy get the needle? Did he use it himself to shoot up drugs? Did he find it out in an alley somewhere and he just picked it up? He's like, I'm going to stab someone with this.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. I've heard of this happening before.
I've heard stories like it, but never saw a video. Like, never saw.
I've never seen a video. No, I've never seen a video or anything. I just have heard about it.
I wonder what this drug. They said the guy who got stabbed, they offered him like a drug cocktail that could damage his kidneys. I think I remember hearing a story about. I can't remember who told me this, but if you get stabbed with a certain types, or if you get like a certain kind of infection. Like infected blood or whatever in you have a certain amount of time that there's like real heavy drugs you can take that can prevent you from like catching AIDS or something like that, but it needs to be done super quick and it can really mess you up. I wonder maybe if that's what's going on.
Yeah, I would assume that's I heard about that too, and I assume that's what they were talking about.
But that just the idea of that is like if I got stuck with a needle, if I was this man and that happened to me, that would ruin my life for a very long time.
Well, you'd be just like you say, the waiting game that you'd be playing.
And it can take like months and months and maybe I think even years before you can find out that you have some serious diseases or whatever.
I think like with HIV, like it's not even going to show up in a test for a few months.
Oh, man.
So yeah, you'd have to go back every couple of months to get tested for a while before you would consider yourself in the clear, I guess.
That's horrifying.
No, it's terrifying. Yeah, like so it really depends on this individual who did the stabbing. Like, is it just the psychological aspect of it where they're like, I'm just going to stab them with this empty syringe and make them think that they have to go get tested, all the time and blah, blah, blah. Or was this a dirty syringe that they're just like, I'm going to jab this person with it because I'm.
That's where my money's on, because I think the type of person who would just stab someone at random with a syringe, yell, go get tested and take off. They're not someone who's going to like open a fresh syringe outside of the bar and carefully handle it and walk in. It's just some nutcase. And the fact that this happened, like it's just like getting hit by lightning for this man that was sitting there, and it's like it could have been anyone. There was no provocation or anything. It's just someone, for whatever reason, decided to do this and just walked up to him and did it. And whoever it is, I hope they're caught very quickly. And I don't think any kind of justice for something like this will be equatable to what this poor old guy's going through over the next few months, waiting to find results of all these blood tests.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because like, what would you even be charged with? Like, assault with a weapon or whatever. And that's like,
I'm sure there's a list of things you could probably throw that under.
Either way, like, I think like this, it's so horrific to me that this person should have a life sentence without ever having parole. They should lock them up and throw it away the key, because it's just such a evil thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, no, it's pretty ruthless.
All right, well, we usually don't go out on a dark note. We need something light. Oh, I got something for you.
Oh, well, I also heard, I saw some posts or something being shared about the guy who was exposing himself in the Tim Hortons.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, that's how we can go out. So last week we talked about the drive-through pervert, which was the guy who committed acts of indecent exposure in a Tim Hortons and McDonald's drive-through in Dartmouth, the area of Halifax. It is in the news again today because they haven't found who did it. So the Halifax Regional Police released surveillance video, or not video, a surveillance photo, which is a good quality, clear photo of this creep's face. And it's being spread far and wide around the internet. I think this guy is going to be busted, unless he came from some other part of the world to show his penis to people in the drive-thru in Halifax and quickly left to whichever other part of the world is disconnected from here. Because I've seen posts that were been shared, 1,000 times, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was actually able to see his face this time, and
he looks creepy.
Yeah, looks like someone who would show their penis at a drive-thru.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's again, this is something also that comes up on the show a lot, is if you commit a crime that people find amusing in any way, it's like you're going to get busted because it gets shared. This guy's going to get caught because the crime is so salacious that people are going to share his photo as like the drive-through pervert. Do you think I think he would have a better chance of getting away if he had have done it at like a Robin's Donuts? Just the fact that it's Tim Hortons and McDonald's, people are so quick to share like any kind of weird story that involves those places. That's gonna raise the profile of this indecent exposure. Hopefully this guy gets help.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's not very old. He looks 25-ish, I think, is what.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. He looks young. And I mean, not that there's a specific age for drive-through indecency.
Well, I wouldn't think it'd be 25. I would think it'd be something like some creepy old guy would do.
Well, so you're kind of pigeonholing the elderly into being the demographic who's capable of this kind of mischief.
You know what? I think if 10 people go through the drive-thru and expose themselves to the drive-thru staff, the median age, like the average age, I think is going to be late 60s.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this proves you wrong completely, though. This is a young,
this is an outlier,
virile individual who.
That's why I'm so concerned, because I feel like
Yeah,
It's an anomaly. And
so if this was a 70-year-old man, you'd be like, oh,
another?
Just throw him on an island.
Well, I think we'll be providing an update on this case soon. This dude's, I think he's having a pretty bad day today.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Aaron. Well, let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up.
Until next time.
Until next time, Jordan.
Don't
stop
waste your money on an
being
crazy
so
app.
Bad to the elderly.
I want to thank you for joining Aaron and I for our Keep Canada Weird discussion. But before we part, I want to give some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing an evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big thanks to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, for supplying the intro and outro voiceovers. But most importantly, I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. But with that said, keeping the show alive is and has always been an uphill battle. So if you want to help take a bit of weight off the show's back, please listen on the premium feed. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help the show out and get more of it at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And with that said, I want to thank the newest subscribers of the premium feed. Greg, Rin, and Duke, thank you for going premium. If anyone else would like the show but can't do it with a premium feed subscription, you can give me a huge hand by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If you have any story ideas, if you want to give feedback on the show, or if you'd like to contribute a voice memo to Aaron and I, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte. Copyright Jordan Bonaparte.